Hello, my name is Kelly Lynch, and thank you for all being here today. The title and main focus of my advanced studies presentation is Silent Struggles, Breaking Down the Barriers to Teen Mental Health Support. In the year 2022, 10.6% of youth, which is classified ages 12 to 19, coped with severe major depression. The number of youth experiencing severe depression had increased by 197,000 from the year prior, 2021. As proven by the statistics, the presence of depression has become a massive ordeal among teenagers in the United States. Understanding and comprehending the components of teenage depression has been proven to be a strenuous task. The existing solutions to treating depression in American teenagers have fallen short. According to the University of Michigan Medicine, nearly 3 in 4 people who take prescribed antidepressant drugs do not get complete relief. Despite advancements in research about mental health and new forms of therapeutic methods, depression in teenagers resists easy solutions. The evidence provided above has proven that treating depression in American adolescents is a complicated challenge, which leads to a crucial question to be asked. What are the top 3 barriers to treating depression in 21st century America? Overall, after further analysis, the top 3 obstacles to preventing the treatment of depression in teenagers in 21st century America can be identified. First is the societal stigma surrounding mental health related issues. Secondly, there is limited access to mental health resources. Lastly is the prevalent influence of social media and adolescents' chronic online presence. By breaking down these barriers, society can produce a supportive and happy environment where depressed teenagers can openly get the important care they need for their mental health. Throughout history, depression has been a prevalent issue in our society, for example, affecting about 280 million people worldwide this year. If this issue continues to go unnoticed, that number will increase significantly with each passing year. The Mayo Clinic classifies it as a mood disorder that causes persistent feelings of sadness and a loss of interest in multiple aspects of daily life, such as regular activities and socializing with peers. When suffering from depression, a person will feel the debilitating symptoms of feelings of sadness, angry outbursts, loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities. These are just a small few on the expansive list of symptoms of suffering from depression. The symptoms a teenager suffering from depression will feel are the same or very similar to the symptoms of adults, except for a few differences, such as clinginess, poor performance or poor attendance at school, feeling misunderstood, extreme sensitivity, and avoidance of social interaction. The symptoms presented above are highly damaging to a teenager's developmental years and can lead to long-lasting problems that will carry on with them throughout adulthood. This malevolent mood disorder does not just cause emotional distress, but can also cause deterioration in a teenager's general mental health. Individuals who suffer from untreated depression will often develop increased anxiety due to the fact that their minds remain in a constant condition of fearfulness, worry, and/or restlessness. Depression is also a major contributor to the creation of other mental illnesses. These mental illnesses include panic disorders, eating disorders, and even substance abuse, because individuals may attempt to self-medicate to flee from their feelings of sadness and emptiness. Depression also affects an individual's cognitive functioning. If an individual's depression goes untreated for long periods of time, the consistent stress and emotional overexertion can cause difficulties in memory retention, decision-making, and concentration. In the severest of cases, depression can possibly lead to self-harm and suicidal thoughts. Effects such as the ones described above make early acknowledgement and treatment not just essential, but potentially life-saving. Now that we finally understand the full context and scope of how depression affects teenagers, I'll begin with the top 3 barriers. The societal stigma encompassing depression in teenagers is a complicated issue that is lacking in getting the effective support and recognition that it deserves. In our society, the seriousness of mental health struggles in teenagers is downplayed by the widespread misinterpretation that one's teenage years are a phase filled with erratic behavior and mood swings. The misconception plays a part in the belittlement of adolescents' feelings and emotional challenges. The stigma surrounding teenage depression is preventing teenagers from receiving the help they need because of the fear of being treated with judgment and cruelty. This stigma is causing many teenagers to suppress their need to speak out about their depression. According to Prevent Ed, an organization whose primary focus is to spread awareness of mental health related issues, states that 1 in 5 teens will experience a mental health diagnosis and have to now receive the treatment they need. Teens and or their parents may not seek help due to the negative stigma surrounding mental health. A solution that could possibly be viable is educating our society more on mental health. By doing this, society can get a better understanding of mental health struggles and become more accepting. This can be implemented by teaching it in schools so children can learn at a young age how to appropriately handle the topic of mental health, and so teenagers can feel more noticed and accepted. This can also be implemented in the workplace through anti-stigma mental health campaigns, trainings, or workshops that educate employees about mental illness and encourage them to seek help. Workplace anti-stigma campaigns can build knowledge, change behavior, and reduce mental health stigma at work. Addressing the societal stigma and starting mental health educational programs is of the utmost importance for creating a positive and supportive environment where teenagers battling depression can receive the help they desperately need, encouraging open discussion about mental health. The second of the top 3 barriers solving depression is limited resources. Teenagers in America face many challenges when trying to address and learn about the topic of mental health due to the lack of accessible resources. According to Saul Levin, CEO and medical director of the American Psychiatric Association, we have a chronic shortage of psychiatrists, and it's going to keep growing. People can't get care, it affects their lives, their ability to work, to socialize, or to even get out of bed. With the shortage of mental health professionals, many adolescents find themselves on their own when it comes to trying to understand mental health due to insufficient resources. The medical field isn't the only one lacking mental health services. Communities and schools are also lacking. Communities and schools lack counseling services about mental health educational programs, with only 1/3 of schools providing outreach services, leaving teenagers with very few sources to seek help. This issue can be fixed by increasing funding and making the path to becoming a mental health professional easier and more accessible. By increasing the funding to schools and communities, more positions for school and counselors, psychologists, and therapists can be opened, especially more and more underserved areas. Increasing funding can also help support the creation and installation of a broader range of services, such as individual and group therapies, crisis intervention, prevention programs, and school community-based partnerships. Improved funding can also help with the early identification of depression or other mental health illness issues that stem from depression by supporting the implementation of regular mental health screenings and checkups. Increased funding can also go towards developing and bettering mental health educational programs that can teach teenagers about emotion regulation, conflict resolution, and other coping mechanisms. These funds can come from the federal, state, and local levels through acts, grants, and donations. An example being the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. This act was passed in June 2022, and it prioritizes youth mental health and school safety by providing funding for mental health services and school-based support. Another solution is making the path to becoming a mental health professional easier and more accessible. One way to make the process easier is by increasing scholarships. By providing programs that offer stipends and scholarships, individuals will feel more inclined, due to the decrease in financial strain, to seek a degree or training in mental health. To make becoming a mental health professional more widespread and less challenging, it should start to be offered in more accessible ways, such as remote online learning. Remote learning will attract more individuals to want to become mental health care professionals because it will overcome issues such as geographical and scheduling constraints. By increasing funding and making the path to becoming a mental health care professional effortless and more accessible, teenagers can get the resources and help they deserve. The last barrier is social media. Teenagers are constantly exposed to inconceivable lifestyle images which make them set unfeasible expectations. Overexposure to the negative side of social media can lead to feelings of insecurity and low self-esteem, with 42% of people on social media reporting feeling more insecure about their appearance after using it. Additionally, cyberbullying further magnifies the emotional damage to teenagers, with about 32% of teenagers reporting being cyberbullied. Cyberbullying on social media platforms can lead to an enlargement in negative emotions such as anxiety, stress, and sadness in teenagers as they try to figure out how to handle the negativity and pressure of peer judgment and cruelty in an online space. A solution that could possibly be viable is establishing limitations on screen time and phone usage. To make this possible, guardians and parents need to establish guidelines and boundaries on their child's social media and screen time. This can be done through parental control plans within the cell phones and other electronics, and by creating tech-free zones, which are established areas within the house that are phone-free, such as the bedroom and dining room table. Limited screen time should also be implemented outside the home and in schools as well. 14 states across America have put into action laws that ban cell phones during school operating hours. One example of this is New York's bell-to-bell ban, put into place in May 2025. One example of this is New York's bell-to-bell ban, put into place in May 2025 for the 2025-2026 school year. It was created by New York Governor Kathy Hochul. The law bans the usage of cell phones in all public and charter K-12 schools in the state. Actions taken such as these can help adolescents learn to live healthier lifestyles and establish better affinities with technology. Starting other extracurricular activities and hobbies, such as sports and clubs, can increase teenagers' time away from their screens and teach them how to live more balanced lifestyles. Ultimately, social media makes teenagers insecure and has harmful impacts on the mental health of adolescents, making it so important to recognize and address social media's involvement in their mental well-being. Now, to conclude my presentation today, depression is a malevolent mental health illness that affects millions of people around the world. It's a major issue in American teenagers and has many contributing factors that make it unsolvable. The top 3 obstacles to preventing the treatment of depression in teenagers is societal stigma, limited access to mental health resources, and the prevalent influence of social media and adolescents' chronic online presence. By breaking down these barriers, society can produce a supportive and happy environment where depressed teenagers can openly get the important care they need for their mental health. That's my work cited.
Hi, and thanks for your work on this and for the advocacy that you're putting out about this important issue. I think it's great. Was there a particular source or a body of sources that you really went to that you found most helpful in guiding your research on this subject?
I went to the American Psychiatric Association. I went there and I looked and I saw how limited they had on their resources and everything. And that's where I found the quotation from Saul Levin, the CEO and medical director, about how there's such a shortage and how it's such an issue. And I also went to the National Institute of Health, the NIH, and I looked in their medical journals and I saw how big of an ordeal it was among teenagers and how they weren't getting the help they needed.
Why do you think there's a shortage?
I think there's a shortage mainly because of the societal stigma, people not wanting to speak out about how they feel out of the fear of judgment and cruelty from people. And I just think it's not a well talked about topic enough to where people want to look into it more.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. He said there's a shortage of psychiatrists. Do you know if there's a shortage of psychologists also? And can you speak a little bit about the different roles those two professionals play in mental health care?
I think there is a shortage in psychologists as well, because it's not that it's not a profession that people really want to go into most of the time. And what was the second part of your question?
Just the difference in the roles of those two professionals, like a psychiatrist versus a psychologist.
I think that I'm not really sure on what the difference is. I know that they both deal with the mental health of people.
What brought you to this topic?
What brought me to this topic is this year, my mother got diagnosed with a neurological disorder that made her lose the ability to functionally walk, and because of that, she kind of went into a little bit of a poor mental state, into the kind of depression in a way. And obviously I wanted to help her, so I looked into it more. I looked into it more, and I saw that there was such a shortage for teenagers, and there's limited resources on everything with that, but majority teenagers, and I couldn't find the information I needed really to help her.
Question I had, your initial question was what were the 3 major barriers, so I was wondering why that number, why 3, and then what was your methodology in uncovering that those were the 3?
Well, in my research, I looked at some statistics, and I saw that those were just the highest number of contributors. There was other contributors such as like obesity is a very big issue in America right now, or like the death of a family member were big contributors. But mostly those three just had the highest number of affected teenagers, and I just wanted to focus in on those because they were the biggest issue.
So when you say like those were the ones, what entities or research agencies were reporting that those were the three highest? Like what was your methodology in going to what types of studies and then knowing that those are the ones to rely on and therefore those are the three that you're going to also claim are the biggest?
Well, I looked at, like I said, I looked at the NIH and I saw that, like, it was the most, like, consistently, like, repeating in all of the articles being, like, the biggest issue, and that's why it kind of, like, became my main focus.
Kelly, I'm a lot older than you, and depression in teens, that was my generation as well. And I'm always hopeful that at some point it won't be such a social stigma anymore. Why can't we talk about it? Why is it such a social stigma still? Did you think about that?
I feel like it's just because environments have been, like, created to where people, like, some people don't like talking about their feelings and they think it's a sign of vulnerability and a sign of weakness when in reality it really isn't. But some people, like, from their parents, they get instilled that mindset that, like, it's not something that should be talked about, and that's kind of like from like the older generations that, like, it's not really something to be spoken about. So hopefully as, like, the younger generations can get educated on it more and taught that it is, like, a topic of conversation that's allowed, that as, like, they teach their children, it can become more and more acceptable.
Do you feel like it's becoming more acceptable in your peer group?
I think so. I think, especially here it says, like, with our mental health awareness week that we did and stuff like that, and, like, the good guidance counselors we have here, like, it's definitely increasing, but it's not at the point to where it's like it should be.
I had a question kind of similar to that is, you said throughout history this has been happening. I just didn't know if you, in your research, if you came across anything that showed that there was a steady increase or like a trend in the increase of this as an issue. And if you did see that, I wanted to ask if, like, why do you think that is? Like, because if you're seeing a trend and increase, it could be because it's actually increasing, or it could be because we're doing a better job of providing that care. So now it just looks like there's more people with these issues when really, like, everyone's always had them, just no one's talking about it.
Well, I saw that as social media increased and the internet increased, that's, like, when it became more and more higher because of, like, the negative side of social media. That's when I saw that there was, like, a steady increase in that trend. And I do think there could be more because there is more people getting,
Like, willing to come forward.
yeah, willing to come forward. And I generally think that is a good thing that people are coming forward with it, because then it can be identified sooner and hopefully they can end it before it continues into adulthood.
Kelly, you had one of your slides in the beginning of your presentation. You had 2022 as a year that saw a specifically large increase in incidences of mental health issues amongst this age group. How might that be a reflection of the post-COVID world?
COVID definitely.
Well, I mean, can I ask you, when you say you think, do you have any information from any of your work?
Well, I didn't specifically look into the effects of COVID on it, but COVID had definitely made it more difficult for everyone due to the isolation and everything. And COVID was still happening in 2022 in some parts of, like, the world per se. So I definitely think it's a major contributor, and I definitely
And then you also indicated in the early part of your presentation, a series of proposals. You were mentioning the proposals, but then you went on to say that there's very limited money for mental health resources. So I'm curious, where are those proposals? Who is responsible for implementing those proposals?
What do you mean by proposals?
Well, you use that term. These are solutions, proposals of how to deal with certain of the three categories that you had. How you would deal with those. They were proposed solutions that might mitigate or reduce mental health issues. But you also alluded to the fact that there's limited resources in mental health. So I'm trying to understand where's the impetus going to come for those to implement those proposals? Who's going to be doing that? Are you assuming that someone's going to just do it, or?
Well, increased funding can happen at many levels. Like, they could apply to the state and federal levels for money, but then also it can be done on local levels by like doing community-based work, like bake sales and fundraisers. There's obviously not enough funding for it, but there could be solutions by just trying ways to raise money for schools and everything.
Would you be open to, say, taxing phone manufacturers or taxing social media sites or things like that, where that money would go directly towards allegedly the mental health problems that those sites create? It's a big step.
I think that is a very viable solution for it. And schools already, for cyberbullying, they already kind of do the same thing where they look at cyberbullying and they give disciplinary actions for it. So I feel like that wouldn't be such a far stretch to do that as well. I feel like it's a viable solution.
That's one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to put you on the spot. You talked about the schools and phone policies. You think? Let's talk about St. Edward's. This is going to make you really popular with your peers behind it. But if you had to say, what's in terms of the mental health of the students of this school, what would you say?
Just when we did the phone leak, all my friends said that they kind of like being disconnected from their phones, and I personally like being disconnected from my phone because I found myself socializing more with peers, and I didn't find myself so drawn to it. And I definitely think that helped my overall state of mind and just made me happier because I didn't feel I need to check my phone so much.
So Kelly Lynch is endorsing a bell-to-bell ban at St. Edward's School.
That's my takeaway.
Anything else?
No, Mr. McMullen settled my question.
Thanks, Paul.
But yeah, it's a good question.
Okay, Kelly, thank you.
All right.